What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into another Celtics Talk weekly post-game show. I am your host, Rob Haytayan. Join with me are my two co-hosts, Justin Lowe and Nick Franco. Guys, the Boston Celtics fall tonight 119 to 118 to the Toronto Raptors in what was the final game of the Celtics 5-game preseasons. The Celtics finished this preseason with a near perfect record of 4-1. The next game that we play will be October 22nd, guys. It is banner night, the first game against the regular season. That will be up against the New York Knicks. 7:30 tip off. However, the banner ceremony, if you want to watch it, is at 7. So make sure to tune in early there. Guys, now again, final game of the preseason, which is kind of nice for the post-game show, right? We can talk a little bit about tonight. We can talk about overall what we saw from Boston this preseason. I think we saw a lot of good, so I'm excited to get into that. However, as for tonight goes, the Celtics found themselves in a hole early, trailing by as much as 24 points. However, they were able to get out of that hole, Justin, with that crew that kind of came out there in that second quarter. Now, you texted in the group chat how much you loved what you saw from that unit out there. Tell me a little bit on how the Celtics were able to, take a 24-point deficit and get rid of it so fast.
I think the Celtics, when they ran that double big lineup, as well as alongside Jordan Walsh, Jason Tatum was in there, Peyton Pritchard as well. I just think things were really flowing for the Celtics. It really spaces out the floor really well. We'll get into the ebbs and flows of what this roster is really going to look like officially a week from now. But I really like what I saw out of guys like Xavier Tillman, Jordan Walsh as well. This preseason, really being able to space out the floor, and that opens up the game so much for guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. So just a really terrific stretch for the Celtics. You look at that first quarter, go watch it. They being the Raptors shot, I believe it was 10 of 12 from distance in that first quarter. That's 2K like that. They turned up the sliders and they were playing on rookie mode. That's essentially what it was. The Celtics weren't playing bad defense. They weren't playing bad offense. Turns out Celtics only had one turnover in the first half. It was just Toronto making shots, letting them fly, and they were falling, unlike they were 2 nights ago when they were in Boston. So I think Boston adjusted well in that second quarter. Yes, it is preseason, but a 24-point lead is a 24-point lead, and I love the way the Celtics responded from that, and they were able to turn this game into a really fun game in the end game, Franco.
This was the most realistic and competitive expedition game the Celtics had this preseason run. This game was one where the starters for both teams were playing well into the third, and the Celtics had White and Tatum out there into the fourth quarter, and it was a competitive game, and the Raptors were shooting off the charts in the start of the game with um, Scotty Barnes, and they did a great job of starting it off. And they were treating it like it was a game 7. You could tell that they were competing out there. There were a lot of rotational players out there for them that are playing on a team that's more open roster spots because their team isn't as good, and there's a lot more playing time available at the 10 and 13 roster spots for the Toronto Raptors. So those guys were putting up a great fight, and I think the Celtics did a great job of responding. You could see once the Toronto Raptors slipped, the Boston Celtics became the Boston Celtics of last year. Peyton Pritchard was able to become that spark plug for the Celtics and remained consistent throughout this preseason for the Boston Celtics. And I think Jason Tatum did a fantastic job tonight, and starting off with the ball, and also he was playing in the middle of the zone throughout the first half, which I thought was pretty questionable when he had Xavier Tillman on the court, and Xavier was playing more defensive on the wing.
I liked what I saw tonight from the Celtics, especially in that second quarter in particular. Obviously, 40 to 20, they won that quarter. That little 19-0 run we saw there, guys, which really gave Boston that lead going into half, specifically out of Jason Tatum. But I saw a lot of Xavier Tillman running the four tonight, and we've seen it this preseason. With that Tillman Cornette little duo, I've come to really like, and it kind of shadows a lot of what we've seen with Al Horford running alongside Kristaps Porzingis. Right, it kind of feels like their baby brother. That is Cornette and Tillman. And they run it very well. And Tillman has done a phenomenal job. And tonight his numbers don't jump out at you on the box score at all. No points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and a block. But he was out there and he was making plays and he was getting good looks. And 0 of 3 tonight from 3. Despite entering this game 6 of 8 this preseason. So we saw enough from behind the arc out of him. So I look at Xavier Tillman this preseason, and I think he ended it on a positive note. And that kind of was my takeaway from this game in terms of what the bench showed me. Now, guys, we talked about Jason Tatum a little bit, and tonight he is your player spotlight. 24 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. Get to know and love this stat line, because this is a stat line that Jason Tatum is going to be playing around with a lot this year. The Celtics this preseason were very, very obviously trying to run their offense around Jason Tatum. I think Joe Mazzulla has kind of figured out that when Tatum has the ball, the defense has to collapse, and that generates open shots for Jason Tatum's teammates, Justin. Now, Tatum tonight, 24 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, Like I said, what have you liked from him? Because tonight his 3-point shot was there, and then quickly it dwindled away there in that third quarter. What did you like, what you saw from Jason Tatum this preseason?
I just really liked how engaged Jason Tatum was. Now, Jason Tatum is not one of these superstars where he likes to take rest. It doesn't matter if it's a preseason game or an NBA Finals game. Jason Tatum wants to play any minute he can, and he wants to play at the highest level. And I think that's what we saw this preseason of Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum came in with a locked-in mentality. Obviously, with the documentary crew following him around for the Starting 5 Netflix series. The cameras were on him in the NBA Finals, and all summer long the talk was Jason Tatum still isn't ready, even though he literally just won an NBA championship at the highest level, right? So I think Jason Tatum just came in with this, and he's treating every single game like it is a Game 7 of the NBA Finals, and I really like that. I love the aggressiveness from Jason Tatum tonight. I like the poise from Jason Tatum tonight. He didn't waver. He didn't settle. I do think there were a couple heat checks in there, but I mean, rightfully so. He had it going tonight, and it felt like a regular season game for Jason Tatum tonight. It didn't feel like a preseason game. And you always say, Rob, you can attest to this because you and I talk about this all the time. It's like, what are you doing when you're not scoring? And those 8 rebounds and 6 assists are huge, and he did that while he was scoring. So that makes it even bigger. And obviously, he didn't play in that fourth quarter, or at least not very many minutes down the stretch when the game was close. But I can tell you right now, with the way that the night was going for Jason Tatum, had he been in there to finish this game, Celtics would have walked away with a win. And but Jason Tatum has come into this season, and he looks comfortable and he looks locked in. And you could say the same thing about his co-star Jaylen Brown, Franco.
Yeah, I think Jason Tatum did a fantastic job tonight. You can see that he's taking on the number 1 option role. He's becoming the player that the ball starts with. It's starting to veer away from starting with the point guards and Derek White and Drew Holiday, who didn't play tonight. I'm starting to like what we're seeing from him. He's doing a lot more, starting to initiate and play make for the team, creating a lot of open looks. You saw Peyton Pritchard and Derek White getting open 3-point looks because Tatum was starting to cut to the rim, and also Jason Tatum starting to become more aggressive inside the paint, especially during a preseason game. You would expect him just to be working on that new form jump shot that he's going for, but the entire team came in very competitive, and I think that Tatum has taken the steps into becoming the leader that the Celtics have been looking for him to mature into.
I think my biggest positive from Tatum this preseason, excuse me. The 3-point shot was nice. Quick note on that. It's so evident to me that Tatum's form and shot is much more effective and efficient this year when he is getting open standstill threes. Those standstill threes weren't always there last season, especially in the postseason. Like those weren't not as knocked down as we were accustomed to Jason Tatum making. It's kind of back to that point. The off the dribble stuff we saw tonight still isn't falling. So, I'd like to see Tatum. I mean, he took 13 tonight, which is about 5 more than what I'd like to see him at. But,
13 more than what Rob wanted.
I know it is. But, for the most part, I can't hate on it because it looks much better. And 38.5% really in the grand scheme of things, if you shoot that over the course of a season, that's more than what we can ask for out of Jason Tatum. So I'm not worried about the jump shot at all. That looked good enough for me.
He's comfortable though. He also looks really comfortable in that jump shot, which is a plus as well.
Yes. And then the other thing with JT, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, is I've noticed the attention he's drawing out of defenses is wild right now. And that's in the preseason. It's only going to get better come, regular season. Now, when you play the Boston Celtics, I think at this point, you have to make the conscious decision before the game or during the game, right? If you're the opposing team head coach, what are you going to do? Are you going to play Jason Tatum one-on-one and straight up and not help on anything, right? Or are you going to let the other players around Jason Tatum beat you? And I think that mentality is very, it's a tough one to go into because, I remember saying the same thing with players like Giannis and LeBron and all these players, right? It's do you let them get their 40 and the other players you stop them or vice versa? Now
it's like Luka in the finals.
Right, exactly. And I think that's what I'm noticing is teams right now, especially this preseason, are saying, okay, let's contain Tatum. Let's make him become a playmaker. And now what we're seeing from this next evolution of Jason Tatum is that he is more than ready to be this team's playmaker. And he's doing it at a very high level. And I love to see that from him, in the preseason. It's new. We saw it in the postseason. It's refreshing. And, an overall very, very good, solid game from Jason Tatum. Now, I do want to move on, though, because we know what Tatum's going to give us, what Brown's going to give us, right? It's all about, in my opinion right now, the other guys, right? The guys that let's dig deep into this roster. Guys like Jordan Walsh, guys like Lonnie Walker, guys like Jaden Springer, right? Because, we only have, I believe we have 1 or 2 open roster spots to give right now. And I'm interested to hear, where you guys and who you guys are looking to get. Because right now, I'm really interested in the Lonnie Walker situation.
I'm not making fun of you, Rob. I swear. My kid, I have 2 kittens.
I know. I already picked up on it.
They're jumping on my kneecaps right now. It's killing me.
I can tell. Don't worry.
It's funny that you brought up Lonnie Walker because we talk about the tax, the $10 million tax hit that will hit the Celtics. That if we do sign him, we didn't see him tonight. I think that's worth noting. I do. You saw the Celtics run a regular rotation tonight, or what could be a regular rotation tonight. And even in the later minutes, you saw the Celtics shy away from Lonnie Walker and go more towards J.D. Davison, Jordan Walsh, Nemaesh Keita, 3 guys who are more than likely going to get the opportunity come the regular season. You didn't see.
Was he dressed?
He was dressed.
He was dressed.
Okay. He was dressed. And I don't know. That's very interesting to me. You also didn't see Jaden Springer. Now, Jaden Springer was interesting that you didn't see him either, because he's another one of those players where it's like, okay, coming in, he played half a year in Boston. He's only 22 years old. Celtics seem to be really high on him. And he didn't play in this preseason finale. They ended up playing Ron Harper Jr. Over Springer. So there are also talks where in order to sign Walker, Celtics would likely have to part ways via trade with one of the end of bench guys. And one of those end of bench guys would be Jaden Springer. So I don't know how Brad Stevens is going to handle this. I don't know if he'd just rather keep that last roster spot open. It'll be very interesting. You saw quiet start to the preseason for Lonnie Walker in very limited minutes. And then in those 2 games in Boston, he was phenomenal, specifically in that second game against Toronto. But a very interesting coach's decision, do not play. And he was dressed tonight, Rob.
Who now, between Springer and Walker, which direction are you going if you're Brad Stevens?
I'm because Lonnie Walker's not that much. Lonnie Walker's what, 24, 25 years old. He's not that much older than Jaden Springer. I mean, I think that the forward depth in the wing depth is very crucial. I think I wouldn't mind seeing Lonnie Walker over Jaden Springer, but then also you lose a tremendous amount of defense on that bench because Jaden Springer, we know what he brings on the defensive end, comparisons to Avery Bradley, for sure. So once Springer gets that shot down, I mean, it's going to be crucial for him. But I'm kind of torn between that. I'd probably lean more towards Lonnie Walker. I like his size. I like what he's able to do offensively and defensively. And that's not a knock on Jaden Springer. That's just the fit of this roster. How would you think Brad's going to approach this, Franco? Because you're kind of more the roster kind of breakdown guy here at Celtics Talk Weekly. How do you view Brad Stevens handling this roster change this week?
Ideally, if we turned off roster salaries, where my GM mode or my 2K My League, right now the Boston Celtics with Lonnie Walker have a perfect 15 roster. The 3 point guards, 3 shooting guards, 3 small forwards, 3 power forwards, 3 centers. Right. Every player, every position is filled perfectly. Your 10 people in your rotation are nearly perfect. And I think that if we are able to somehow work out a way to keep Lonnie Walker, I think that makes you have 9 players on or you have 4 to 5 players on your bench that you feel comfortable playing around 15 to 20 minutes. And that also will come into load management, and you'll be able to rest your players like Al Horford more frequently. Right. However, you're going to run into the luxury issues with keeping Lonnie Walker. I think he's way too valuable to put into the play for me.
I would assume you're bound to run into financial things for the rest of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown's career as long as you're here. Right. I feel like we're already so far deep in, like there's no digging out right now. Like just sign them and then
you might as well.
I mean, it's much more complex than I'm making it sound, I'm sure, but I just feel like you're there. Chance to go back to back. Lonnie Walker could be. I mean, would easily be the best 15th man in the league. He's too good for the G League. He's too good for the G League. And I feel like if we give him up, what if he goes to a Milwaukee? What if he goes to a New York Knicks? That'd be a nightmare if Lonnie Walker went to the New York Knicks, who are already significantly better than they were last year. Obviously, now Paul George, with the bone bruise, he's only going to be out a week or 2, but who knows with that? They might need a backup small forward. Lonnie Walker would fit in well with that group too. So I'm really torn up, Rob, at kind of the Lonnie Walker situation.
Yeah, I think in the grand scheme of things, right, this decision doesn't make or break the Celtics title odds. Right. I think, which is the luxury of having to make this decision. However, I will say this. It's not easy to win 1 championship in this league. It's even harder to win 2 in a row. And I think with that, the Celtics have taken the right steps necessary in order to, progress towards winning the second one in a row. However, I think in the process of winning your second, that second version of the team has to have a little new spice and flavor to it, right? And I think you got to add a little something. And if I'm the Celtics, I think that little something of spice and flavor is, Lonnie Walker. I think that he presents, an opportunity or a player off the bench that it's a sense, a feeling of comfort when you can put Walker in. He's experienced. he's been there. He's played in some big playoff games. We've seen him with the Lakers put up that 30 points against Golden State, right? Like he's been there before. And I think it would be yet another luxury for the Celtics. However, I do agree with some of the things Franco is saying where, yes, that would be a nice luxury. However, when you're paying the tax dollars in which the Celtics are going to have to be, eventually paying, the decision gets harder. Now, on the flip side, what you said, Justin, makes a lot of sense as well, where you're already so far in, why not just pay the tax dollar? It's $10 million more. I think the real problem, right? And I say that just 10 million. I know it's ridiculous. Yeah. Send that my way, Brad. I'd love that, Brad and Wick. You can make a small donation. But I think the more complicated part is
spend the 10 million, you cheapos.
Yeah, what you gonna cheap out on us now, Brad?
Guys, don't have any coupons for that? Like,
but I think the harder part for this team, I think, is pulling off in the short week. To dance around and pull off getting rid of Springer or whoever they need to get rid of, whether it's via trade or cutting. I don't know how that works. So I think that is the complicated part about this is you have a week before the season starts and you ideally would like to have your final roster set about, 3 days in advance. So, we'll see what they do. I'm sure in the coming days, the next 2-3 days, we're going to find out what Brad Stevens and the Celtics decide to do. So it'll be interesting. Now, a move that they can make within house comes within the rotation guys, and we saw some of the the end bench guys fight it out. And a player that stood out to me is Jordan Walsh. Now I put up a poll on our Instagram asking people whether or not Jordan Walsh was the most impressive player from the Celtics this postseason or this preseason. You keep calling it postseason. Now we got 82% of the votes saying absolutely, and 18% of the votes saying no, it was somebody else. Guys, Justin, Franco, I'm interested to hear. Was Jordan Walsh the most impressive player on the Celtics this season, or do you think it was someone else?
I'd go right towards Jordan Walsh. I absolutely would go towards Jordan Walsh. It's funny, he says nothing has changed within his shot. I think there's more flow within his shot. I think with flow comes comfortability. We talk about it with Jason Tatum. I think the game has slowed down a little bit for Jordan Walsh. It was an up and down rookie year for him between Maine and Boston. He got the all-time experience. The Maine Celtics going to the G League Finals, the Boston Celtics going to the NBA Finals. I think that's the most winning you can get in the NBA is both your teams going to their respective final series. And the improvement is just incredible for Jordan Walsh, right? This 19-year-old, 6'8" with a 7-something wingspan, could play defensively, and is not known for a shot. And I think his shot has improved tremendously. And we talk about the floor spacing. I think that's huge when you're playing with a guy like alongside Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And he was a part of that lineup that, brought Boston from being down 24 to eventually up by 1 point at the half. Right. So I think Jordan Walsh is the main thing, not only has been his play, but the consistency of his play. Like all games that he's played, I believe it's been like 4 or 5 this preseason. He's been very, very consistent for the Celtics. So I think you have to take that into accountability as well. So I definitely think, especially with O'Shea Brissett stepping out of the rotation this season, I definitely think there's that open slot off the bench for that kind of, I don't know, maybe like 9th or 10th man off the bench for the Celtics on any given night. I definitely think Jordan Walsh could slot into that position, Franco.
I think the Maine Celtics will be able to give some of the bottom of the barrel NBA teams a run for their money this season.
Absolutely.
Because there's going to be so many players bouncing in between the Celtics main squad and their G League squad. And Walsh was one of those players last year, and I think we're going to see him a lot more in a Boston jersey more than we'll see him in a Maine jersey this season. And I think he's going to start possibly cracking the surface into rotational minutes other than the fourth quarter minutes when the Celtics were in a blowout and had some minutes to spare. I think that there's a lot of contributions he can bring. I think that him and Hauser being your wings coming off the bench is a great thing for the Celtics because you're getting the best of both worlds, and they both have um, different roles that they can play. Hauser being more of a spot up shooter, and Walsh has developed into a very versatile player. He's been able to cut to the rim if that final layup fell. That was a well executed play, but unfortunate that they didn't get a whistle blown or a that didn't fall. But I think we'll definitely see a lot more of him in the near future.
Walsh has entered that weird threshold in my mind where he's way too good for the G League, but we're not sure if he's quite ready for the NBA. Because he's still so young. What is he, 20 years old?
Right.
That's how I felt about that's exactly how I felt about Aaron Nesmith his second year. Like his rookie year, he's pretty solid. Then that second year kind of fell out of the rotation a little bit and would get his minutes. And it was sort of like that with Peyton Pritchard as well. It was like, man, like this kid is these guys are way too good for the G League. And then you throw them in the NBA and it's like, well, can they play a consistent 10 to 15 minute stretch any given night with these guys? So I think that was a great point, Rob. I'm happy you brought that up because you do see that around the league, and you do see that like the game's got to slow down for the players. But
we've seen some of that from
good.
Walsh. I feel
Right.
like, right? And I texted that today where it's like the one play with the clock winding down with about 40 seconds left to go in the fourth quarter, pressure, he got the ball with about 6 seconds on the shot clock, pressure in his face, clock's winding down. A lot of players would just settle for that step back three because they can get it off easy. Walsh was able to, get to his shot, get into the lane and stay on his line and get to the rim and get a good look and eventually put the Celtics up by one, sorry, tie the game. I forget what the score. Tie the game, right? Yeah. So it was definitely an impressive preseason. I feel like from Walsh, and his game reminds me a little bit of a rookie Jaylen Brown in the sense where all of the tools are there, right? I'm not saying he's gonna eventually be Jaylen Brown's caliber player. That's not what I'm saying here. But what I'm getting at is, JB, when he came into the league, he was very smooth. His, all of his intangibles were there. He just kind of needed to just see more basketball. He had everything, there. You could see it, right? But it wasn't ready yet. And I get a lot of the same vibe with Walsh, where he's so capable of being a high caliber player in the NBA, right? Whether it's off the bench or, eventually he can, develop into a starter caliber player, but like it's there. You can see it. Like Justin said, his shot looks good. Like Franco said, defensively, he's there, right? All of it's there. It's just whether or not I think he can, progress and develop into that next tier of NBA caliber rotation on any given night player.
I think also I want to give credit to JD because JD is a guy where it's like his time in Boston is certainly kind of the essence. And I say that with all due respect because there's clearly a lot of trust between JD and Brad. Brad sees something in him, and I think I see the same thing as well. But it took a while for the game to slow down for JD. Obviously his rookie year, and then last year with the summer league, the poor summer league last year and the turnovers and everything like that. And then turns out come regular season in Maine, he became one of the, if not the best player in the G League last year, averaging nearly a double-double. Was one of the league's best players and earned himself another opportunity with the Celtics here, signing a 2-way deal. I think JD was terrific in his opportunity here in the preseason as well. He took the Celtics down the stretch game 1 in Abu Dhabi against Denver, and he took the Celtics once again down the stretch here in Toronto for the preseason finale. 12 points. Was getting after it defensively as well. Got himself to the free throw line. I love the aggression, getting to the hoop, being aware of the situation where the Raptors were in the bonus. I think he was terrific. Obviously hitting a huge 3-pointer to put the Celtics up late. gave the Celtics another opportunity to win. And I think that just shows growth. I think that shows progression. And I think it also goes to show you that it doesn't matter if it's Jason Tatum or one of the two-way guys, because we saw Drew Peterson ball out with 23 points 2 nights ago. I think everybody on the Celtics is locked in, and it's only a matter of time before the regular season comes around. And these guys look really, really prepared. The Celtics didn't finish undefeated, but they looked just about undefeated in this preseason.
I will say, my thoughts on Davidson are kind of, I feel like it's not going to work out in Boston, right? I think it's there. I've seen flashes of Davidson that show me that, you can be a real stellar player, kind of like Aaron Nesmith. We saw flashes, but I think if Davidson wants to thrive, I think it's elsewhere. I think it's an opportunity where we can get some real minutes on a team that is okay with kind of playing players who are developing. It's just not in Boston. And as unfortunate as it is, because Justin, you're so right. He's shown us so much good this preseason, especially tonight. He was kind of the guy for us down the stretch, made all the right plays and really, on both ends of the floor. It's just like, how realistic, is it? I feel like I just feel like we're holding on to too many players at the end of our bench. Yes. Oh, hello there. It feels like we're holding on to too many guys at the end of our bench who are, young and promising, but it's like, how realistic, is it?
You also, as I'm prying my cat off my chair, you also have to look at the guard depth. Look at this multitasking. You have to look at the guard depth for the Celtics, right? You look at guys like Drew Holiday, Derek White, who they both just locked up for the foreseeable future, and then obviously you throw Jaylen Brown and Peyton Pritchard in there as well, who they also locked up for the foreseeable future. So it's really just tough to crack the guard rotation, even on a standard deal. And it's like that's really tough. Like that's really tough when you kind of have that that depth in front of you,
right,
and those types of players in front of you. But I did like the progression, Franco.
Well, if Lonnie Walker is out, if in the unfortunate case of that, JD Davidson could be the candidate to slot into that 15th slot, with the possibility that that is the best financial option for the Celtics. That's a way that they can keep Jaden Springer on this roster. That's a way that they can have that flexibility. And he is on that two-way contract. So it's going to be interesting to see if they will utilize him throughout that contract, just to be that option at the end of the bench with Springer and being more of a shooting guard position player. And I think that Davison brings the versatility and athleticism to play that depth shooting guard, which I believe in a perfect world, Lonnie Walker on opening night is the Celtics backup shooting guard alongside Pritchard, Hauser, and mix whatever power forward and center you want amongst it, Tillman and Cornette. And
I think there's a high likelihood, Franco, that I feel like if it's not Lonnie, it's gonna be open.
It's gonna
be
nothing.
I agree.
I think Brad has a suit. I think Brad really likes that roster spot open. Sorry.
Who are you going to add? Name somebody off the top of your head. Who are you going to add at that open roster spot? What is wrong with you?
Lonnie?
What is wrong with you? That is probably the worst thing you could have ever said. That is brutal.
Right, well, so let's do something.
Seriously, who can you name better to fill in that 15th spot?
No, I agree.
I agree with your point. If it's not Lonnie, it's no one. I don't care how cheap that person is. I don't care how expensive that person is. If it's not Lonnie, it's no one. I think Boston keeps their 3 two-way spots like that. I don't know where Jay Scrubb went. I don't know if he's going to be assessed to Maine, because they said they signed him to an exhibition 10, yet he didn't play in the final 3 preseason games. He wasn't even on the bench. So I don't know if he's going to be kind of with the team, being Maine. But Yeah, I think
Well,
if it ain't Lonnie, it's not going to be
Yeah.
anybody.
So let's do something real quick then, right?
Yep.
Who's the 15 or 14? We'll call it. So it's the starting five, right? The big five.
Yep.
It's Horford, which puts us at 6. Pritchard and Hauser that put us at 8. Cornette and Tillman that put us at 10, right? Then the guys on standards, right, are Kaida,
Springer.
Springer, Walsh. That's 13.
Yes.
So now we have 2 spots. So do they go to who?
Are you sure you didn't leave anybody out?
No, it's 13.
Did you say Cornette? Did you say Luke?
Yeah. Yep.
I think you leave them open. I mean, if you're not gonna pay Lonnie, if you're not gonna sign Lonnie, I just think you leave it open and you rock with what you have, and I think you sign somebody according to.
Is Shireman on a standard?
Yeah,
Shireman,
it would be Shireman. We completely played him out.
Good.
Yeah.
That's
So
fine.
So well, no, but like, see, like, here's my thing, right? It's like, I get it. You want to have some youth, right? And nothing against Shireman. He showed me,
No.
I'll be 100% honest. He showed me absolutely nothing this preseason, right? Nothing. Like straight up not. And he's a rookie. It's fine.
Game
right?
hasn't slowed
He's a
down
rookie,
yet.
right? But
he'll get time in Maine and his shot will come along.
But here's my problem with that is that he's a 24-year-old rookie. And he's somebody that I think Brad drafted with the expectation of kind of like a Jaime Jaquez, right? Where he's a little bit older, but he's coming into the league and you're pro ready, right? You're 24. You've seen a lot of basketball. You're not like when you're 18, 19, right? You're still like, you aren't like a grown man yet, right? You're still like a little kid. 24, you're a grown ass man, right? So, excuse my language, but like, right. Like, that's just what it is. So it's kind of like, you don't like, I don't know. For me, Shireman didn't show me anything. Doesn't mean he can't show me anything, but like, it's like really between Lonnie Walker or Shireman. I get it, the money, but it's like, I don't know. Realistically, that the roster spot's open. I think Wander doesn't make the team, or Lonnie. Yeah.
I think you see Shireman in a Jordan Walsh situation like last year where he was on a standard deal, yet he spent a majority of his time in Maine. And I think that opens up the opportunity for now Jordan Walsh for his opportunity in his official second year to he is on that standard deal. He is on the roster and he will have an opportunity with how he played in this preseason. So you kind of saw, and I will again allude back to the comparison of roster spot of O'Shea Brissett. You saw early on the Celtics went to O'Shea Brissett in those first few games of the regular season last year off the bench. Yeah. Wouldn't shock me if they did that same exact thing with Jordan Walsh tonight. The Celtics played their starters for essentially almost, everybody played nearly upwards of 30 minutes tonight. And you saw, and the Celtics really ran a tight rotation. It was an 8-man rotation until about the third quarter. And Jordan Walsh was the 8th man, right? So I definitely think that Walsh will have that opportunity.
Is Walsh an upgrade over O'Shea Brissett? Because I think it might be.
I think you definitely have the youth. You definitely have the size. I think I want to see the consistency in the regular season of that offense because you got that. You got that from O'Shea. You got that from O'Shea Brissett. You got the consistency of his effort and his defense, but you didn't get the consistency of his shot like you had in like he had in Indiana, upwards of a 40% 3-point shooter. Didn't really shoot lights out last year when he had that opportunity. So I do want to see the shot be consistent in the regular season for Jordan Walsh. And I do think with how the Celtics offense is, that'll definitely allow Jordan Walsh to get plenty of his fair share of shots up when he is in there. So I think he could be an upgrade. Absolutely. I mean, just turned 20 years old, definitely on the uprise, huge progression from Jordan Walsh. And I don't know if he's a summer league player, boys. I think we saw the last Jordan. I think we saw the last run of Jordan Walsh in summer league last July, because it was kind of like Peyton Pritchard, where it was like, okay, the first 2 seasons, okay, yeah, he played summer league, and then that third season he played like 1 or 2 games, and it was like, wow, like it feels illegal.
What do we?
You know what I mean? So I feel like that's where we're at with Jordan Walsh. I think Walsh is taking that next step, and I'm excited for the opportunity that he could have with this roster.
Right. Excited is the right word. I feel like with Walsh.
exhilarated.
I'm having such a tough time writing Lonnie Walker. I'm having like post department syndrome with him. I don't want to
Dude.
watch him leave whatsoever. And if I'm Wick Grossbeck, I still have access to. I've already pissed off my dad enough by spending all of his money on players. Now he's making me sell the team. I'm
Well,
sticking my middle finger up as it's happening, and I'm watching it burn down with 3
I
championships. And he's going to make all of his money back.
Dude,
He bought
you're
the team for
describing a terrorist
370
attack, dude.
million. He bought the team for $370 million in 2002, and he's about to sell the team for $5 billion in 2028. I don't think another
What's
$10
$10
million
million?
in the luxury tax and add it to the business partnership. That's what comes with winning in Boston, and that we know that it's going to bite us at some point, especially with the new CBA rules. But as
let's
long
start a
as we can let it
GoFundMe.
happen,
That's
yeah,
what I'm
let's
thinking.
start
Well,
it.
with the starting 5 being at almost $1 billion, they're gonna have to kill it in jersey sales in the pro shop this year.
We'll have the CTW car wash.
That's too funny. All right. Well, I do agree with Justin as we almost wrap up here. That I think tonight was kind of like the okay, like unfortunately, Lonnie, we're probably not going to go with you. You kind of saw like a regular season rotation, like 8-man through 3 quarters, a lot of Walsh, a lot of Tillman, a lot of Cornette off the bench. And other than that, it was a little bit of Kaito, which again,
I before we end this show, I want to bring up Luke Cornette. I want to give Cornette his flowers because I think he had a terrific preseason. When we were talking about when we were talking about Luke Cornette, when we were talking about what players who might have had a better preseason than Jordan Walsh, I don't think he had a better preseason than Jordan Walsh, but I definitely think he was in the upper echelon of players who had a very, very solid and impressive preseason. I really like him in the high pick and roll. He's continuing to flourish around the rim. His progression is getting better as well. It's funny because we talk about him. This is year, I believe, 8 for him in the league. Yet it's really like it feels.
That's
like
when they hit their prime. That's when they hit their prime, baby. That's when
but
they
it's
hit their
like, yeah,
prime.
but it also feels like year 2 or 3 for him because at the same time, like he totally reinvented his game when in his, I'd say, second stint with Boston, when he, after that finals run against Golden State, when he really started getting minutes for us. He turned into a high pick and roll player, rim roller, rather than a 3-point shooter. So he really halfway through his career reinvented his game. So I give him a lot of credit. And this is a guy that we're going to have to rely on through the first month or 2 of the regular season, depending on how Porzingis comes back and also with Al Horford resting on back-to-back. So this is definitely a guy I want to give flowers to because he had a terrific preseason.
Yeah, and you say reinvent your game, and that's such a great way to put it. Sorry, Franco, I cut you off. You can go.
Yeah, Franco. Play the applause for Luke Cornette.
Well, I think that we're going to see a lot of Luke Cornette because he's one of the, other than Kato and Kristaps, he's the mainly solidified 5. Because when you see Horford and Tillman on the court, you've seen Tillman playing almost like a Grant Williams role in a younger Al Horford in his first stint in Boston role, where he's the 4, he's out on the wing, he's doing versatile things, and that's just a testament to the skill that he has. He can guard from 3 to 5 and is versatile enough to get steals and defend off ball. But I think Luke Cornette is the person that you're going to see down low, getting the rebounds and boxing out and allowing for players like Tatum and Horford and Tillman to be able to come in and stack rebounds as well.
Can we get another round of applause for Luke, please? Just one more. Give it up for Luke Cornette.
Whenever we need that soundboard, it's ready.
Well, you talk about, players thriving off of guys like Tatum and Brown. I mean, Cornette's the prime example of that, right? And
Yeah,
he's mastered
absolutely.
at being in the right spot. He's always in the right spot, and that's a skill that, instinct. Justin, you mentioned his pick and roll offense, that high pick and roll. He's such a long, tall guy that that it's so tough to get around him in that pick and roll. And, you got Brown or Tatum coming off that screen. All the attention goes there. So he's done a phenomenal job slipping. He's done a phenomenal job on the offensic glass. I mean, totally round of applause for Luke Cornette.
Well, I thought Franco was going to do it again. I think it's like you talk about that 2-man game that, kind of impersonates the Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis. I think that's what makes Cornette and Tillman so dangerous off the bench together, because you get one who could set that screen and roll for Tatum as Tatum and Cornette roll to the rim. Tillman's able to stretch the floor and step beyond the arc in the corner, and I think that opens up the floor tremendously for the Celtics, and that's why that lineup worked so well and created what turned out to be a 26-2 run.
Absolutely. Well, we will just have to wait and see, guys. But tonight, the Celtics dropped their first preseason game of the year. Their last one as well, 119-118 against the Toronto Raptors, guys. Jason Tatum was your player of the game. 24 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists for the All-NBA first team member, guys. The Boston Celtics will start their 2024-2025 defense campaign against the New York Knicks on October 22nd. Tip-off is at 7:30. However, this opening night's a little bit different than previous years, guys. Again, it is banner night. Banner 18 is getting risen to the rafters at home. It is also when they will receive their rings. That starts at 7 o'clock. Now, if you're getting to the game, Celtics organization advises you to get there at the latest 6:45. They want you in your seats. They want you filling up that crowd for the 18th banner going up, guys. You'll be very excited. Use SeatGeek, right? Yes, if you are going to that game, guys, there is no better app, to use than SeatGeek, guys. Use code Celtics Weekly at checkoff for $20 off your first purchase, guys. We appreciate SeatGeek pairing up with us this season. We're going to be using them a bunch. So, again, thank you so much, guys. After the I knew it was coming. I was waiting. I knew it was coming. Guys, we will have you covered here live after the final buzzer sounds of opening night for what is going to be a very exciting season. The Attack on 19 starts now, guys. I'm Rob. Next to me is my man, Justin. And all the way over at the end of there is the man himself, Nick Franco. Guys, as always, go Celtics.